This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Leaf Girl, Min, Sex Caliber Bones a Lot, Madeline, Alyssa, Vixen, Holly, Natasha, Laura, Jeremy with the laser eyes, Allie, Logan, Libby, Aaron, Kristen, Amy, Tia, Jonathan, and Isaac. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group where we'll be taking Dreamo-Sil nightly.
Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, Paige, you made us watch Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare. By the way, this isn't the final nightmare.
Not the final. There's movies after this. Yeah.
Yeah, there are ones after this. I think it was just like 3 years after, right? I haven't seen it, but
yeah, 1994.
Yeah, because this was 91. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, Paige, when was the first time you saw this movie?
Today asked today.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was at like an open mic last night where I was tasked with giving people feedback on their jokes, and this feels very similar because I feel like there are premises and things that they start in this movie that I'm like, oh, you could make a fucking incredible movie out of that, and they just don't. Like the idea that Freddy is a serial killer and we're following his daughter finding out about her father being a serial killer, and a serial killer in a very realistic true crime way.
Yeah.
Fucking love.
And sort of playing on the like, she has to sort of fully embrace who she is and her birthright.
Right.
And come to terms with that to overcome and break the cycle of abuse. Yes, Paige, I agree. I get it.
Right.
This movie is art. It's beautiful.
No.
Like it is saying so many poignant things. I agree. Yes.
I would also say that I really kind of like the mythology of the evil dream demons. I wish we kind of got more into that. I was here for that.
Oh, the death sperms or whatever those three things were? Yeah.
Yeah, the death sperms.
Yeah.
I also love the amount of practical effects and puppet work in this movie. Shut the fuck up. That shit's amazing. It looks corny as hell, and I don't change a second of it. Don't change a frame.
I love that you can super tell anytime it cuts to a miniature.
Yep, love it.
And I was like, oh, Beetlejuice, let's do it.
There's so many miniatures in this movie, and I fucking love it.
It's great.
The things that I don't like as much.
Nothing. Print. Let's move on.
No.
Come on, Paige.
The plot don't make no sense.
Paige, what?
But more than usual, right? Like, I know it's a nightmare movie, so there's a level of,
Yes, as long as you can acknowledge that.
Yes.
Okay.
More than usual. The plot don't make no sense. And I felt like all the kids that died in this one were not bad kids, but rather troubled kids who had had horrible home lives.
Yeah.
And I was very, very upset that that's who gets victimized in this movie. And I know that Freddy plays a little more fast and loose with that, and Jason is more the like kill the sexy teens slasher. And I know we've had other like versions of this, but I feel like in a lot of the other nightmare movies, they find a way to fight back faster so we don't kill all of the kids who don't deserve it. Because I would argue none of these kids deserve it, and they don't learn to fight back until it's literally down to the last of them. And that's a little rough for me, especially because we see how bad their lives are.
The only thing we know about Breckin Meyer's character is he likes to play video games and smoke weed. The Carlos character, he's deaf, I guess, and was abused. Like, we don't know anything about them that is bad at all.
Well, we know Breckin Meyer's father dates young women potentially outside their consent.
Oh, I know.
Because we hear that early in the movie.
But that's not a reason to dislike Breckin Meyer. That's what I'm saying. Like, you like all the kids, yeah.
Right. Like, we learn about Carlos that he likely lost his hearing because of abuse. Like, he was hit. Like, it was something that happened to him, which is fucked up.
I got the vibe that his mom may have stabbed his eardrums out with Q-tips, but I don't know. Maybe that was just part of the Freddy dream, but still, I don't know.
Who knows? Not sure. But, and then Tracy, the last one, was clearly sexually abused for multiple years of her life until, I assume, she killed her father in self-defense, and that's how she ended up here.
They don't explicitly say that, but that was telegraphed in the movie. I got all of that, all the way up through she killed him in self-defense. Yeah.
And then the movie's like, let's torture them with it in their dreams. And I'm like, this isn't fun. This isn't the same as in Dream Warriors where they were doing like, you know, where it was like naked nurse and karate.
Dream Warriors! Myers is way better than this movie, but I did sort of like this movie. I don't know. I sort of really dig into the camp that is this movie, whereas I don't with Hellraiser.
It is cartoonish in this one.
Oh, I agree.
I do in my notes at one point have, is this Hellraiser 2? Because it goes very Hellraiser at a certain point.
It does. And I actually, I don't think I like the quote camp in Hellraiser, but I do like it in the Freddy universe. Hellraiser just feels like it takes itself too seriously for me because your villains are like, I am a Cinnabite. Would you like a soda with your Cinnabon? Like they're just so serious about it.
The things I will show you, icing and dough, pleasure and pain.
The tasty delights. But like I don't understand, like it's just such a weird, it's a weird time to take it seriously, I guess. And Freddy is the opposite of that. Like he is just silly one-liner all the time.
All the way.
And I think that helps with the campiness of it. I like it.
I do think it goes a little too cartoon in this one.
How dare you? In Tom Arnold's second best movie page? How dare you?
Like Breckin Meyer's death, I was like, all right, this isn't Who's Framed Roger Rabbit. Like this is a Freddy movie. Whereas like in Dream Warriors, when he like pulls that girl into the TV and is just like,
welcome to primetime, bitch.
Welcome to primetime, bitch. Like
so good.
They're still trying to do some stuff like that, and some of it's more effective than others, I would say. Some of it goes way too cartoony where it's outside the realm of horror. But then we like cut back to Freddy playing that video game and he's like, great graphics. And I'm like, that's fucking hilarious.
I know, right?
That's fucking great.
It can't be as shit. I mean, really, the movie is just, okay, we're going to kill this X amount of people. Let's build one set per death. And we will just jump from set to set under the guise of, are they dreaming or is this reality? And that's more or less the formula for a Freddy movie.
Right.
For like all of them. This one actually sort of flips it a little bit because it seems like...
There's a weird field trip in the middle of this one.
Well, no, I think I sort of like that aspect of it because in the beginning of the movie, you think he's trying to run that kid over or whatever. And you're like, the kid just barely escaped. No, Freddy was kicking him out.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to get him out of Springfield or wherever they were.
It's Springwood, but because of recent news, every time I was like, Springfield, Ohio? No, Springwood, Ohio.
Yeah, no one can eat pussy there. Anyway, but Springwood or whatever, you think, oh, thank God he got out.
Right.
But Freddy is using him to get his daughter to come back.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He's playing it like it's chess. It's great. I love it.
I just wish those motivations were codified a little bit better within the script because we spend about 50 minutes of like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And then the last 30 minutes of like, all the story, even though some parts of it were telegraphed very early. When they were sharing dreams, I was like, oh, she's Freddy's daughter. And I just like immediately called it.
I know, isn't it great? I love the way it plays out. But yeah, you sort of know that early on. And if you don't, like, then you're surprised and it's great.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, I don't care if I'm surprised by it or not.
If you don't, maybe you have not watched that many movies in general.
Yeah, I mean...
because it is telegraphed so obvious.
That's fair. I mean, like, I think because of what we do, we watch a shitload of movies, right? So, like, we know, like, the common tells that directors will do, and you just pick up on that. So, like, if you have seen a ton of movies, you probably knew right away.
Right.
But if you didn't, the twist is fun, and even if you know who the daughter is, the way they reveal it is fun.
Sure.
And you get to see the surprise on John Doe's face when he realizes you're not the main character of this movie, John.
Which we're realizing it at the same time, which is wild. It is wild that this movie has like, you're following somebody, you're like, clearly that's the main character. And then they just kill them halfway through and they were like, no, bitch. It's like Psycho.
I know, right? That's why I don't care that I knew the daughter was the psychologist, right? Because the reveal of that for the character we witnessed was still surprising to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought that he was going to be the guy that like she worked with to
fight it off and no.
Yeah, and then she'd be the damsel in distress and he would save her. But they flipped that. They don't even really flip that. They just kill that mofo immediately.
They just kill him. I feel like it's a good choice that's maybe not executed as well as it could be, but I still respect the hell out of it as a choice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you kill off your presumed main character 55 minutes in or whatever.
I kind of dig it. I expected him to be the final, air quotes, final girl, basically. Exactly. Like, for him to be what Tracy ends up being.
Yes.
Because Tracy is the one who's kind of with her through the end. But like, yeah, that it was very interesting.
I agree, Paige.
From a screenwriting standpoint, questionable. But you know what? Hey, they took chances. It's not paint by numbers, or at least not numbers we recognize. And good for it.
This is like it's paint by algebra because there's like letters in it, there's numbers in
like
it. It's just weird. And either way, I don't understand it, but I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Like I do understand that this movie is not trying to be scary.
Sure.
It is trying to be funny, and I think that is why I like it.
Sure.
Like it is one of those horror comedies that I'm super into because it is fun and campy, and I had a good time with it, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't hate it. Like I said, there's parts that I really like. It made me think about, like, what would the A24 version of this be? And it would absolutely be the daughter as a therapist talking to a client who, like, is sharing dreams with her. And it would focus more on her the whole time. They probably wouldn't do the kill off at 55 minutes. But it would be a much more grounded story of what the child of a serial killer would go through.
That would be a cool movie. A24 should do that.
That'd be a cool movie.
Like, they don't need to do it Freddy. They could do any serial killer.
It's way more interesting than the son of 1,000 maniacs that I don't love.
Well, I don't know. That is pretty interesting. Like, how did that work? Was it like a little bit of DNA from every one of the 100? Is it one lucky sperm that snuck through?
I think it's just the dream sperms.
Was it the 3 demon sperms?
Maybe.
Oh my God.
Maybe.
Is it weird that it's 3 just because the Godhead is 3? Like, I don't know. It's weird that it's 3 to me.
I mean, 3 is one of those numbers that is important in many, many different religions, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Also, that was probably the amount of puppets they could afford.
Fair.
But, like, the idea of a daughter solving her mother's murder at the hands of her serial killer father.
Oof, crazy, right?
Call Netflix.
Yeah.
Call Netflix. Yeah.
I'd order 10 episodes tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it would take that many, but sure.
We could fill the time page.
You get that through the fire lady on it. It's just 2 episodes flat. She'd be like, I know exactly where she's buried.
That documentary's crazy. I forget the full name of it, but everyone should go watch it.
Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter.
Yeah, it's crazy good. Natalie and I binged it in one night, and Paige binged it literally the same night, and we did not know that we were going to do that. Anyway.
There was no time to talk to each other about it. We had to solve the crimes.
Yes, and we did. Paige, I have a very simple question for you that I was really struggling with while I was watching this movie, and that is if I had amnesia and could not remember who I was,
right,
and I was also not around anyone I recognized, so the police then designated me a John Doe.
Right.
How long would it take me to start just automatically responding to someone saying John in a room full of people? Because this guy immediately is like, yes, I am John Doe. You're right. I will answer to John anytime someone says John in a room. And I feel like it would take me a while if I did not know my name was John.
Okay. I am of 2 minds about this because I think my question about this is how long does it take you to learn a name, right?
Yes, exactly.
If you don't have an existing name that you're replacing, I think you'd learn a name a lot faster because you're like,
oh shit, are we going deep on this? We're going, okay.
Right?
Yeah, fuck the comedic premise. Let's think about it. Okay.
Right,
so,
thank you. Right. I know I have like genuine questions.
We're not overwriting my name. I'm not changing my name to John. I don't, in my mind, have a name.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So is it easier for me to did this guy crush the performance of an actual person with amnesia and I'm making a joke about it because I don't know? Who knows, Paige? Certainly someone more qualified to make wild guesses, but here we are.
This is here's where my brain went with this because like I have had a number of friends transition, right? Which means that you learn their chosen name as opposed to their dead name. And I feel like it's way more to kind of overwrite that old dead name in your mind to affirm their chosen name than it would be if somebody just came up to you and said, my name is X, and that's the only name you ever knew. Because I have both friends that have transitioned in the time that I've known them, but also trans friends that I met post-transition. So I only have one name for them.
Yeah.
And it was never a problem. I've never known their dead name. So it's never been a thing I had to learn. And I feel like this is kind of similar in that way of like, if the only name you learned was John, I think that's what you go with.
I mean, maybe. You might be right. I don't know.
Not to step on your joke. I just genuinely thought about this, was like, damn, what?
Somebody get Leonard Schlane on the case.
Man. fun.
Yeah. Also, not to comedically change back to another premise, but
No, of course.
did Freddy's daughter know how to knife throw like she was in a circus?
Oh, and where did she get the crossbow? Because, like, we see Tracy tossing knives under the fence.
Yes.
And ninja stars, by the way.
Gotta have them,
But those are all small weapons, because they were like, yeah, it's small weapons, and she's tossing them under.
Oh, and she's barely fitting them under this chain link fence. Yes. They show you how difficult it is to throw the Chinese star or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you watch Maggie pick up like 3 knives and throw them, and you're like, what now? And then she suddenly has like 6 more knives and ninja stars, and you're like, wait a second. And then she pulls out a fucking crossbow, and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? And then she's got a pipe bomb. We do see them throw the pipe bomb, though, so we know. But this is like in Terminator, where they throw the duffel bag full of pipe bombs.
Right?
And you're like, wouldn't that explode?
My only question is, but did she go to school at like the Barnum and Bailey School of Psychology? Like, why does she know what a knife throw and like basic sleight of hand magic? Where did the crossbow come from? Like, I have too many questions about her than I'm comfortable with at the end of this movie.
I just want somebody to recut that scene with circus music. They're like, like real Pee-wee's Big Adventure shit. Like that would be hysterical to me.
That would be great. But Paige, perhaps we should just go through this movie scene by scene.
Sure.
Nice.
We open on a quote by Nietzsche.
Because all Freddy movies start with a quote from Nietzsche, right? Like that's a thing we've always done?
No, it's definitely not. And also a song by the Goo Goo Dolls about sleeping or whatever. And all I wanted, like I just wanted Enter Sandman, which I know has been in a Nightmare movie at some point. But like that over this wild Nietzsche quote would have been just like, do you know the terror of he who falls asleep? To the very toes he is terrified, because the ground gives way under him and the dream begins. Excellent! Like that's what I want. Altogether Neverland.
It's a good thing they signed the quote Nietzsche, because I'd have been like, oh, was that DJ Quick? I heard this somewhere. Like, of course it's like Nietzsche. It had to be some philosopher. Like no one else talks like that.
I mean, if you had said R.L. Stein, I would have been like, sounds about right.
Yeah. Like I said, that's how philosophers talk, Paige.
This isn't one of those like known Nietzsche quotes.
No, this is a deep cut Nietzsche.
Yeah.
This is definitely a B-side.
Then we get what I will say is one of the most unhinged title cards that honestly kind of ruins part of the movie.
What?
So I think if you take this title card away, that the reveal of Springwood being a bad place and there being no children actually hits harder because you don't know it going in. Because this title card says, mysterious killings and suicides wipe out all children and teenagers. Remaining adults have mass psychosis. New evidence of one surviving teenager. And it's Springwood, Ohio, 10 years from now. So technically 2001, whatever. But I feel like if you get rid of that title card entirely, it's just gone. We don't know any of that. We see Freddy terrorizing a teen. He comes back. He has amnesia. They go to Springwood, and then they discover they're like, there's no kids. Everything is happening here. And then it's more of a reveal in the movie of showing, not telling. I feel like the slide actually does the movie a disservice.
Okay. I mean, it's a Freddy movie. I knew it was for sale.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing, Paige. I'm just saying I didn't think about it.
I will say this one slide looks like it belongs in Escape from New York. Like that, it looks like it's from a different movie.
Yeah. And also, not enough Nietzsche on it. Come on, let's move on.
Not enough Nietzsche.
Right? The guy's got hits. Nietzsche's the God is dead guy.
How about, sprinkle in some Kierkegaard? Why don't you? Anyway, we cut to a shot of a miniature plane in a storm. It is as bad as it could be, but also the best it could possibly be.
I loved it. I did.
Loved every second of it. Love every miniature in this film.
You can almost see the stick it's holding it up. Like it's and I don't say that to be mean. Like I'm here for the camp. I like it. I was here for it. Also, during the opening credits page, it said music by Brian May, and I was like, I have to Google it.
Oh, I forgot That's actually after this, because it happens at like after the plane scene.
Oh, you're right. But I Googled it, and it's not that Brian May. It's an Australian Brian May. You know I looked it up. You know I had to look it up.
That's hilarious. Well, I didn't bother to look it up because I was on a tight timeline today. So I'm watching this. I was like, wow, from Queen. Like the whole time.
I know, right? Brian May is like the guitarist in Queen. Anyway, but it's not that Brian May. It's another Brian May from Australia who did a bunch of movies like this, a bunch of like horror movies on this level. Like,
all right.
Yeah, he was like a known guy apparently. But I honestly got way less interested when I realized he didn't write We Are the Champions.
Yeah. Mama, Freddy killed a man.
Ooh.
Found the glove that fits his hand. Anyway, we cut to inside the plane. And this is straight out of a fucking Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, because they look out the window and it's like, yeah.
On the window, on the wing.
On the wing,
and I was just like, oh, if they put Freddy on the fucking wing, I'm going to be so excited. They did not, unfortunately.
They did not, no. But like, it is the Gremlins thing. I think it was actually in a Twilight Zone episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a Twilight Zone. It's originally a Twilight Zone it might be Outer Limits.
Okay, but it's one of those.
With William Shatner.
Yeah, okay. There's something on the wing.
On the wing of the plane.
Yeah.
It is Twilight Zone.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone episode is Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Okay.
Where William Shatner plays an airline passenger who sees a creature on the wing of his plane. It's the third episode of the 5th season of Twilight Zone, originally aired October 11th, 1963.
There you go.
I love me some old Twilight Zone.
I know, right?
If you're looking for a spooky thing to watch this Halloween that you have maybe not dug into, get into fucking old Twilight Zone, man. Just blaze up and watch a bunch of old Twilight Zone. Tell them Mama sent you. Anyway, there's nothing on the wing of the plane. Kind of a bummer. But we do get this like interaction with him and the flight attendant where he's like, I really want to change seats. There's like water on the inside of the plane window, which is terrifying.
Well, yeah, and it is raining outside, but it's like making it clear that like the plane's not in great shape, you know, like it's old, like it'd be leaky. And so he like asked to switch seats, and the flight attendant's like, no, we're full. Shut up. Which is like not uncommon on flights.
Yeah, that happens.
I mean, she actually was sort of nice in the movie.
She was nice about it, but yeah, that is definitely a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But I do love that the lady next to him is like, don't be such a pussy, and then she gets sucked out of the plane, which made me think of that news story where a window cracked on a plane and explosive decompression was about to happen, except that the person seated next to the plane was a larger person, and so they basically blocked the hole on the side of the plane because they could not physically be sucked out, which I'm sure was incredibly painful for them. But also, you're welcome, Fins.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gets sucked out of the plane, and he says, no, I was almost out. But as he's doing that, there's like a little girl who is the little girl we'll see the rest of the movie who peeks over the seat and is like, you know, he's going to use you. He needs you to help him. Yeah. I was almost out. He falls through the bottom of the plane. He wakes up in Freddy's house and he like opens one of the like bedroom windows to see Freddy as the Wicked Witch of the West. Great.
I know.
Great pull. And he does it perfectly because like Robert Englund is a class act always.
Yeah, he's great.
And he exactly has the physicality of the Wicked Witch of the West. Very, very funny. But he falls through, he wakes up and he like falls through the window and it's an old house and he crashes through and it's 1427 West Elm. Now at this point the credits are playing, which is when I found out that Breckin Meyer was in this and got excited.
Baby Breckin. Yeah.
The very next is Brian May and I was like, of Queen, and then did not Google it and kept watching the movie. So thank you for stopping me from embarrassing myself.
My brain could not stop me from making sure it was him.
I mean, I'm just glad that sometimes when I believe things, I am justified that other people believe crazy things as well. Thank you to all of you at Cult Podcast Live that affirmed you also thought SEAL Team 6 was 6 people. And also to the guy that informed us that there's no SEAL Team 1 through 5.
That's just what they want you to believe, Paige.
Yeah, because obviously, you know, there's SEAL Team 1, Josh Hartnett.
We all learned that on the faculty episode, Paige.
We all learned it.
Did I call him SEAL Team 1?
You called him SEAL Team 1, and then I called her Worm Team 1. It was very late at night. I was not feeling well. I had not slept much.
Because you and I are both taking a week off and going to various locations.
Right.
You to celebrate your 5-year anniversary, me to get married.
Correct.
We're recording a lot, so we have it in the can, right? And I'm giving that just for context, because I have not listened to the faculty episode yet, and it was late, and I don't remember any of it. So okay.
You put forth a theorem.
I do remember the Josh Hartnett was God theory, and I do hold to that.
Right.
I don't remember how deep it got.
As a shorthand, we referred to him as SEAL Team 1 through most of the film.
God, that's okay.
Anyway,
Well done.
So SEAL Team 0, this kid runs and jumps across a fence. He runs across a field, and then he Princess Bride As You Wish tumbles for 2 whole minutes of credits. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, because he's just and you're like, how long? And the credits would cut back and he's still tumbling. Then it would cut to credits. Then it would cut back and he was still tumbling. And then eventually he's and lands. And you're like, how big is this hill? What is happening?
And also, wouldn't that have killed him if he fell for 2 full ass minutes? But no, he just pops right back up.
He pops right. There's another thing that would have killed him here momentarily.
Fair.
Because he tumbles to the bottom of the hill where he lands right next to a bus depot in the middle of nowhere. Who's like, you're going to miss the bus. And he's like, what bus? And Freddy's like, this bus. Just immediately plasters him to the front of the bus. And is just like, no screaming while the bus is in motion. And I was like, are we really not going to go with a wheels on the bus joke here?
I thought this was pretty prophetic for them to make a Scream reference 4 years before the movie Scream came out, Paige.
Oh, see, what I really want is him just being like, the squeals on the bus go where? And
That actually would have been very good and very funny to see Robert Englund do.
All through the town, and then stop, and he brake checks, throwing him off the front of the bus through dream world into real world, where he $1 million babies on a rock that must have been soft till he touched it.
Paige, that's why he didn't die. I literally wrote this in my notes.
That's why he didn't die.
He hit that rock so hard, it was soft for a split second, and that's why he didn't die.
Just a split second, and but stools, notably, hard the whole time.
They're not rocks.
That's why she dies $1 million baby.
Exactly.
And she doesn't die. She gets hurt. But anyway, so yeah, he hits a rock in a way that would most likely murder a person.
Oh, he definitely would have died. He hit a rock after flying through 40 feet maybe in the air.
Yeah.
And he landed headfirst on a rock that would have killed him.
Yeah. And we get a long shot of him flying just on the wings of love, rock to the dome. I'm in an especially weird mood today. Get with it.
That was a good music pull. Shit, that got me. Rock.
Up and above the clouds, the only way to fly. Here's why you're going to love Lisa Frankenstein, is that movie has a needle drop of that song that made me scream laugh in my living room.
Hell yeah.
If you've seen it, if you know, you know. So he's passed out on the side of the road, and then he gets up and is like, rock pillow hard.
Oh, I'm just going to shake it off. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I get why he has amnesia. He hit his head really hard on a rock.
Yeah. I mean, okay, philosophical question. What if he did die?
What if he did die? Paige.
That's why he got amnesia.
This whole movie might just be a Jacob's Ladder scenario from that guy's perspective as he slowly slips his way into death. The final dream.
The final dream. Does Freddy have the ability to send a corpse imbued with dreams to people? He dies on that rock, but does Freddy's bidding on accident?
I'm sorry, are you saying that John is a zombie, sort of?
Maybe.
What, Paige? I don't think that they realized they did that in this movie, but yes, I think they did that in this movie.
On the brains of love, eating up all the brains as I walk into town. On the brains of love. It's going to be a very singy episode today. I'm so sorry.
On the Brains of Love, Paige, is my favorite needle drop in Warm Bodies.
I did like Warm Bodies.
My favorite horror rom-com.
Anyway, it's weird that he ate her boyfriend's brains and kept them in his pocket, right? That's a little odd.
No.
It's hard to explain on a third date.
It's not weird at all. Do you know who played her ex-boyfriend?
I don't remember. Frankly, I don't remember.
It's young Franco.
Oh, shit. You're right.
You pocket those brains and munch. I think we do address how toxic it was for him to use her ex-boyfriend's memories to help figure out how to make her fall in love with him. But
frankly, yes.
That's on a Romancing the Pod episode, right? We did that one on Romancing the Pod, right?
No, I thought it was this. I don't remember.
It was. I think it was. Okay. It could go either way. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's a romantic movie.
Okay. So he wanders into town. And Freddy is just like, good little doggy, go and fetch. And you're like, what is going on? He literally wakes up, he's got like a packet of no-dos, money, and an article about Krueger woman still missing that I assume Freddy gave him.
Okay, I think there's evidence to suggest that Freddy did give it to him because most of those newspaper clippings are ripped out and Freddy has the ability to like razor cut one out. And it is sort of razor cut or scissor cut, you might say.
Well, and it's missing from a thing in Springwood.
Yes.
That we will find out later.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. She's like, she puts it back. Like, I do think Freddy like literally cut it out with his glove hand and said, take this with you.
Yeah. We cut to the youth thing in not Springwood.
I think it's Springwood.
It's not Springwood because they go to Springwood. So this is somewhere else, but we don't know where it is.
Oh, no, you're right. It's like the town over from Springwood or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. But they go to like a youth homeless shelter? Sort of. Yeah. Like,
youth shelter.
I would assume because it says youth, all of these characters, except for obviously Doc and Freddy's daughter, who's a psychologist, all of them, I guess, are under 18?
Yes.
I mean, Baby Breckenmeyer does look 18. The other two kids, not so much, but...
No, I would assume they're all 18, but here's the interesting thing, because we will find out Carlos came from an abusive situation. So likely there is not a home for him to go to.
I think they all came in from abusive situations, yes.
Yes, but Breckenmeyer is the exception where his parents have checked him in. Because in this very first scene,
You're right. I forgot, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we meet his dad, and like he has a conversation with Maggie, who we will find out is Freddy Krueger's daughter, but is the therapist on call at this youth facility that looks like part Mad Max, part youth shelter, part Sea-Doo school, the like wilderness schools where they like take troubled teens that they now have a bunch of documentaries about it killing them. So like it looks like one of those, except that the people working there are maybe not as trash as the people in those documentaries because they seem to actually care about those kids. At least two of them that we meet.
Yeah, I was going to say, we only really see two employees, and those people do seem to care, which is like Freddy's daughter and Kelly, I think is the guy who she works with.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. And so Maggie, Freddy's daughter, is talking to Breckenmeyer and is like, hey, like you could try harder. And he's like, why would I want to be like my dad? And he says, date raping co-eds.
Yeah.
And later he's like, he introduced me to his girlfriend's older sister as someone I could date.
Oh.
So like that's telling us some dark, dark shit about what is going on in his home. But he's there as, air quotes, a behavioral problem, which is why it seems kind of troubled teen-ish, but...
I mean, I think it is sort of troubled teen-ish from his perspective, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the vibe that Breckenmeyer doesn't want to be at home. Like, so the fact that his dad checked him in here may have been like a compromise, right? Like, well, you can't just live on the streets. Let me get you into this facility sort of a thing, because I know you don't want to live with me, your dad, who is a terrible, terrible person who survives this movie.
I don't know.
But like, yeah. It's wild to me that this movie decides to kill Breckenmeyer, the son of that terrible guy who was dealing with abuse, and not his dad. But whatever. Yeah,
that's my main gripe about the movie is that all of the teens get offed and they've just had real rough lives.
Yeah. In that way, it is somewhat realistic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is where we learn that they have weapons. So like that he made pipe bombs and that he's like survival techniques, and they've got like knives and stuff, and it's all in a locker downstairs. This is the like Chekhov's pipe bomb locker that we won't get to until the last 8 minutes of the film.
Wait, oh no, yeah, that's true. Hang on. Did Breckenmeyer bring a pipe bomb to school?
Yes. Well, he made a pipe bomb in the shelter.
Oh, that's right. This is not a high school. Sorry. It's a shelter.
Yeah.
But he brought a pipe bomb to the shelter?
I think he made it there.
Okay, cool. Either way. But that seems like a you get the fuck out of here and never come back type of situation. But instead, they're like, you can tag along. You're cool.
Yeah. You got to stop hanging out with young Kyle Reese, though. Like, this is madness.
He gave me these pants, though. They smell like shit.
Smell you from here. He says that my girlfriend's the mother of the future.
Oh, Kyle used that line on your girl, too? Yeah. He's going around saying he's going to make them the mother of the future. And now he's just like stealing everybody's girlfriends in town.
He's got Polaroids of everybody. Anyway, we also then meet Tracy and Carlos, who are boxing, and we see local cops pick up John Doe, who we never get another name for, John Doe, and take him to the shelter because they don't want to do paperwork. Also very realistic.
I know, right? I was like, damn, commentary. Hit me with it. Hit me with it, Freddy.
Yes, but we also learn basically that Tracy has some things where she doesn't like to be touched, telegraphing very early on the horrors that were in her background.
And sort of her obsession with self-defense. Like, I got why she was the way she was. Yeah.
A hundo. Yeah. We find out that Carlos has a hearing aid, although we don't find out much more about it. Although we do hear, because Breckenmeyer is talking to them and they're trying to find a way to escape the shelter. And Breckenmeyer complains about his home life. And he's like, they're just horrible humans, whatever. He's like, they don't hit me or nothing, and Carlos is like, yeah, you should be grateful that they don't hit you. And he points to the hearing aid, which is what made me think that potentially he had been hit so hard he had lost his hearing, which is terrifying and awful.
No, it is terrible. But I think they might have given us a little bit more information as to how that might have happened when Freddy kills him, more or less.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it definitely happened through trauma.
Yes.
And it seems like it wasn't like a car accident. It seemed like somewhat intentional trauma.
Yeah, someone deliberately injured him and he lost his hearing as a result.
Yeah. But did you say that he can hear through that hearing aid, more or less, that he has it on his ear?
Yeah.
So he can hear, but they do a really fun way of showing that ability of his to hear or not based upon that hearing aid.
Yeah, and turn it off.
Because they do sort of on screen take it off of his ear, or he takes it off.
Yes.
And then it takes all the sound down to nothing, and then when he puts it back on, it comes back up. So it does sort of set the premise of, okay, without that, he cannot hear anything.
Right. We also learn that, so there's two therapists. I think Maggie is actually a social worker.
Yeah, I got the vibe that she was a social worker too, but...
And Doc is the therapist.
I think she was a psychologist or a psychology major or something like that. It was in that realm. I can't remember fully, but it was in that realm, I think. Which I guess she could just be a social worker. Maybe she's getting her master's in sociology or psychology or something, but
she could be an LCSW, which is a licensed social worker that then can perform certain types of therapy and bill them to insurance and a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, so she might be a licensed social worker. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense because she's clearly trying to make sure she hits enough of her PI credits with this case that she can then bill Cigna for private investigation services. It's crazy to me the lengths that she goes to. That's all I'm saying. It's too much.
I mean, I think she can facilitate the kids getting help, but Doc has to prescribe the Dreamosil. And that's Dreamosil. Anyway, she does talk to Doc, and Doc reveals that she has a dream problem too, and she's kind of ignoring it.
Yeah.
But Doc is so in some cultures, there are these dream demons. They find the worst humans and allow them to cross the line and turn nightmares into reality. And I was like, oh, we finally have an origin story for why Freddy can Freddy. And I don't hate it. I kind of like it.
Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Pat.
We're from Seek Treatment Podcast, and we're here to talk about Blue Land. Do you know what I'm so about right now, Pat?
What? Tell me. Do not tell me.
Well, ready for this? I just heard that we're eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week. Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
I know. The products we're using are contaminating our water supply, generating hundreds of microplastics that we're eating. So here's the good news. You're never going to believe this. Blue Land is doing something about it. They're eliminating the need for single-use plastic in the products we reach for the most.
From cleaning sprays to hand soap, toilet bowl cleaner, and laundry tablets, all Blue Land products are made with clean ingredients that you can feel good about. Blue Land is trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. That's correct.
They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counter. And refills start at just $2.25. You can even set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. I used my Blue Land spray today. I cleaned my dirty yoga mat with my Blue Land all-purpose spray today. It smelled good. It got the job done. And the bottle looked beautiful while doing it.
Blue Land has a special offer for listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/save15.
You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/save15 for 15% off. That's blueland.com/save15 to get 15% off.
Anyway, they bring John Doe in for an eval, and he's like, do you have any caffeine or Coke? And he's like, I meant the soda. And I was like, okay, but regular Coke would have solved your problem, but sure. Because he hasn't slept in weeks. And he's like, I can't fall asleep. Bad things happen. And they're trying to examine his belongings in the article that he has about Mrs. Krueger missing.
The Freddy lady.
Yeah, with the water tower in the background.
I love when she's looking over the article and she's like, a woman A water tower. Like she's saying what she's seeing, and I thought that was so funny. I was like, man, this is not a highlights magazine. We're good.
I spy something green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they put him to bed, and he refuses to sleep. He's singing 4,000 bottles of beer on the wall.
Yeah.
I would murder this man.
Freddy does.
Like, I mean, I can sleep through a lot. That would have driven me nuts. But anyway, Maggie falls asleep on her desk. And this is where we get kind of the first version of her dream. And it's set in the backyard with the water tower. And I immediately was like, oh, Freddy's her dad. Like, instantly. But we cut to John Doe's dream where he's in Freddy's house and there's blood dripping from the ceiling. And the little pigtail girl shows up and is like, play with me. And then he, straight out of fucking Hellraiser, just goes, tell me who I am. And I lost my mind.
That is the moment I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Where's this shit going? Because it's already Nutsville and we're only like 15 minutes in.
Well, and so then the security guard at the shelter sees him sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Up invisible stairs.
So good.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
So good. But then in the dream world, he opens the door into a padded cell where he's bleeding in the corner and he's like, free me, you idiot! I'm your fucking memory! And you're like, who wrote this? This is madness.
I think the person who wrote this heard someone explain what amnesia was from across the room at a party and then tried to write this character from what they heard's perspective.
Oh, God. But he wakes up because he has now accidentally stumbled out of a window with the security guard who was trying to help him up. Now, thankfully, it's a first floor window. He does not do a full Mike Birbiglia.
When they show it though, they shoot it low. So when the guy goes out the guy goes out the window, it looks like he may have killed that security guard out the window.
Right? Yes.
They do reveal that it was just like, I mean, he probably did fall like 4 feet. I'm sure it hurt because he went through a window.
Right.
But he's fine.
Well, and he's getting up and he's like, asshole.
I know, right? That is not what I would say. If someone pushed me out a window on the first floor, I'd be like,
God.
I'm going home for the day.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And by day, I mean night. Good night.
Yes. Yeah. Work day. Whatever.
Whatever.
I went through a window. I can say what I want. I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. Anyway, we cut to the next day where he's describing his dream to Maggie. And literally it's her dream. And she's just like, interesting. She's not like, me too. Because I think she probably doesn't want to like further the delusion. But so then she goes and talks to Doc. And Doc is like, yeah, that's fucking weird that you both have the same dreams. Something is up. And she's like, all right, then I got to do the only thing that makes sense. Take him back to the place where he got triggered.
It's called immersion therapy, Paige. Ever heard of it?
Yes, mostly in cult documentaries.
All right. What you just witnessed, chat, was a high road, and I got pushed beneath it.
Not always. I've heard of other people doing it for other reasons, but it's something that a lot of cults will do to be like, see, we're the only way out of your problems, and we're here for you as you get triggered.
Gross.
Pretty gross. Anyway, they hop in a van. They're going to Springfield, or Springwood, not Springfield. He falls asleep in the van and he's like, I told you not to let me fall asleep, but he's still asleep because the little girl's in the street.
Yep.
And he's like, no, swerve, don't hit her. Only to reveal Breckenmeyer, Tracy, and Carlos in the back of the car because they were going to like sleep in the van and then use the van to escape. And now their plans are foiled.
Yes. Paige, if you want to both steal a van and have a nap, I'd recommend doing it in that order. Don't have a nap in the vehicle you're about to steal and then plan on stealing it.
Sure.
It made no sense to me that they were like, what? Why was the van still on the premises?
I think what it was supposed to be, because Breckenmeyer lays out the plan and he's like, I gave the guy the money for the van. He says it's good as long as we do it before dawn. And so what I think happened is he got them all into the van and then they all fell asleep because they had stayed up all night to do it. And they were supposed to steal the van before dawn and they didn't.
Yeah. So I guess my point still stands.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Why would you take a nap before you move the vehicle you're about to steal?
I think they're teenagers that are dumb.
Baby Breckenmeyer is no criminal mastermind, I guess is all I'm saying.
No, and also a van that says Doom Reptile House Nasty is going to be pretty conspicuous. I wondered if that van was borrowed from a place that used to transport reptiles. And I was like, it looks like the type. That van looks straight out of Florida.
I don't think they would Sharpie on the side of it reptile house or whatever if it was an actual business.
You could, like Walking Dead, just like snakes inside. Indiana Jones, don't come in. Anyway, so everyone's in the van and they're like, all right, well, we're going to go to the town. You're going to find a phone. The plan that she has for these teens is she should never be in charge of children, because she's like, you guys find a phone and then you take the van home. First of all, how are she and John going to get home? Because the van. Secondly, she just literally gave them the van to steal.
Well, they had a plan, Paige. There's no reason they can't stick to it.
That's what I'm saying.
And maybe that's why she just gave it to them, because she knew the second they left the van, they were taking it. So
maybe.
Just take it. It's fine. We'll figure out our own transportation.
We'll track you down in a day or two because you have no money and can't buy gas.
Idiots.
Anyway, so they kind of go off because there's like a town carnival and it's real gross, but it's clearly this whole thing of like everyone in town is a little off and there's no children. And the two that have lines are Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold when they were still married, coming up to yell at them about like, I miss our children, but don't tell them about like, you can't have children because that's what brings him here.
Yeah.
And then the bell tower rings. He's like, see what you did? He's here. And like that alone, that interaction alone, without the title card, tells us everything we need to know. All the children here are dead.
Yeah.
All the adults are so traumatized that they cannot function, and they are all living in fear that he will come back, so that he basically runs the town.
I bet if you had asked Tom Arnold the day he filmed this scene, if 3 short years later he would be starring in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, he'd be like, no. But he does, and it's great. True Lies is amazing.
True Lies is amazing. But they make their way back to the van. Meanwhile, Maggie and John are going to go to the school because they heard the bell ringing. And they're like, somebody had to ring the bells.
Yeah.
So the van is driving, and it keeps driving past a statue that says the children shall endure. And it keeps circling them back through the Universal backlot, through a Pasadena neighborhood, and then back. You can't really drive this loop because one half is in a city and the other half is 2 cities away. But you can drive half of the loop if you want to.
Yeah.
If you are in the Pasadena area, which is pretty fun. But they try like looking at the map. Carlos falls asleep and the whole van gets full of maps, but it doesn't matter because every time they draw, they just end up in a circle.
He does open one of the maps and it says, you're fucked, which I thought was funny. And then he like literally yells back at them because he's like falling asleep, and that's why it like does what it does, and he's covered in maps or whatever. But like when that reveal wakes him up and they're like, well, what does the map say? He's like, well, it says we're fucked.
Yeah.
And I was like, this movie is almost perfect. Like, it's so good. It's so funny.
It's so good. But we cut to the school where they run into one of the teachers who's teaching like Freddy's kill history. And this is actually done in a less campy way, kind of creepy. Like, I kind of liked this moment of the teacher being like, these are the clues you need. And it's like within a 10-year period, all of the kids are gone. What happened here? Here are all the like newspaper things. Here's where it fits. They took away his kid to an orphanage. We get so much information here, but without it being direct exposition. And I actually did kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, it's sort of like creepypasta exposition.
Yeah.
It is exposition, but it's somewhat coded in a way that's like you don't fully grasp 100% of what happened.
Yeah.
But you're picking up on some things like, oh, definitely Freddy had a child, right? You're getting all that stuff in the scene. But the guy is creepy. Like every adult, more or less, that lives in this town is like insane, more or less. It's almost like anytime we're inside the world before Freddy breaks out, which I can't wait to talk about how Freddy gets out. But it's like everyone is still stuck in a Freddy dream.
Yeah.
And they're just insane. They're crazy inside this Freddy dream.
Yeah. We cut back to the van where they get tired of driving in circles. They've all taken turns driving. It doesn't matter. They stop the van. They get out to walk on foot.
Yeah.
They walk through an empty neighborhood, which turns out to be Elm Street. Now, this cracked me up because they walk up to one house. They're like, this one. And it clearly should not have electricity. It is abandoned. but they had to clearly light them so that we could see them enter the house.
Yeah.
So they've lit the porch, but not from any electric lighting in the scene at all. The lights are specifically turned off. It looks like there's light coming from inside the house, but that can't be because when they open the door, it's dark inside.
Well, they even talk about how there's no power or water.
There's no power or water.
Yeah.
But it's very clearly just at like, well, we have to see them. Fuck it. Just light it. Light it as if it's open inside and everything.
No one's going to notice. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It's not like 33 years from now, a podcast is going to talk about it. What's a podcast? Anyway.
Exactly.
They go inside. The second they're inside, the house kind of, and very much in puppet miniature claymation nonsense, transforms into Freddy's house. Now, Carlos goes up and finds a bed and is like, perfect, I'm going to go to sleep and we'll get us out of here in the morning. That bed is so dusty, I could have never slept. My allergies would be a hot ass mess. It would be terrible.
Yeah, when he picks up the pillow and like throws it down, so much dust goes into the air, like you couldn't breathe. You would like cough all night. Yeah.
Yeah. But he falls asleep and he hears Tracy yelling for him because Tracy's kind of looking for him. But he wakes up in what is essentially Diagon Alley.
That's fair. This is like one of the dream sets, right?
Yeah.
And we see like this or versions of this, honestly, a lot in this movie. But yeah. It is Diagon Alley adjacent.
Yeah. And he's walking around. His mom is there. She hits him once and she says, maybe you don't hear so good. I'll clean out your ears for you, and takes a giant Q-tip and shoves it through one side, through his brain.
Yeah, out the other side. Ugh, gross.
And it pops through, and then it turns into Freddy, who slices that ear off. Now, that ear was the ear that his hearing aid was in. And so he is like, I can't hear anything. Right? And Freddy throws him down the alley over a fire escape down into a factory set.
Yeah.
And sneaks up behind him making gestures and things because he can't hear. And I do think the sound design here is really interesting because all we're hearing is his breathing.
Yeah. Well, and his heartbeat. Yeah.
And none of the exterior sounds. But Freddy drops a hearing aid and Carlos puts it in, but it turns out to be some sort of evil spider that like latches into his head like a face hugger, but for ears.
It is an ear hugger, and it makes it so he can't take it off. And then Freddy cranks that hearing aid up to 11 and then kills him the way I would imagine if Carrot Top was Freddy would kill him.
Right.
And that is through general prop comic, like natures.
Because first it's like a dripping faucet and he turns it off. Then it's like a pin drop and he catches the pin, but then Freddy drops like a whole handful of pins. Then Freddy comes up with a chalkboard that's like small and he makes it larger and larger and larger. And then
I love the stretching it. I loved it.
Scratches across it, which makes Carlos's head explode.
Literally explode.
And he just goes, nice hearing from you, Carlos, because he's the worst.
Well, because he catches the ear. He catches his ear, Paige. Oh my God.
He catches the ear hugger, like the hugger and the ear it was attached to. We cut back to the house where Spencer, aka Breckenmeyer, is watching a broken TV because whoever wrote this movie, I don't think understands pot. And he's like, look at the voices, man, all the moaning. Hell, and they paint it as if he's super high. He's already asleep, is what I will say. And that's why he's hearing voices and seeing things.
I think if you thought in 1991 stoner teenagers were listening to Iron Butterfly, you're insane. So the fact that they used In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida for this.
In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, baby.
I was like, oh, come on. I mean, I realized that like 91 grunge was either about to happen when they filmed this.
Sure.
And was probably happening when it came out. But like, it wouldn't have been grunge either, but it certainly wouldn't have been 60s like hippie music. Anyway, I thought it was funny. It made me laugh.
I mean, it wouldn't have been that 60s hippie music. I think you'd get like Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is not hippie music, but stoner music, right?
Yes.
And maybe some Grateful Dead. But like that's more of like what you would get, I think.
Yeah. But I thought it was funny. I was like, okay, cool.
It was hilarious. I was dying.
The effect of him like getting into the TV was also kind of cool for 91. I was like, this is kind of like Aha, the music video, but in Freddyverse and hippie.
Todd, I know you did not have Nickelodeon in the late 80s, early 90s.
I did not.
But I am here to tell you that there was a TV show called Nick Arcade where they used early blue and green screen to essentially do what this movie does, where you're in the video game.
Yeah.
And you're just like punching a green screen, but to the people watching on TV, it looks like you're running through an obstacle course and whatever. And that's
awesome.
Essentially this. And it was at this time too.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Anyway, we aren't even there yet. They have left Spencer watching the TV, and Tracy goes out to try and find Carlos.
That's right.
Meanwhile, Maggie and John Doe go to the Springwood orphanage, and the Springwood lady's like, I remember you, and I remember you too. Because, spoiler, they were both in the orphanage, and this is just a misdirect. And they hand a drawing that's like, well, we don't know, but it looks like this was drawn by whoever little Krueger was, but we're not sure. Boy, girl, anybody. But at this point, John Doe is like, I must be Freddy's kid. That's why he let me live. And it's like, that's a big leap of logic for something we don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they run into Maggie.
Yeah.
They run into Maggie and they're like, we got to get to Spencer. But because she was like, I couldn't wake him up. He's too stoned. And they're like, nope. Now, I do love that we cut back to Breckenmeyer watching TV and it's Johnny Depp doing the "This is your brain on drugs," especially because Johnny Depp was in, isn't it the first Nightmare?
The very first one, yeah.
Yeah. So this is your brain on drugs, and then in come Freddy, who's like, "What are you on? This looks like a frying pan and eggs for me."
He hits him in the face first. Yeah, it's very funny.
Well, and then this is when he's like, "Let's trip out in a Gatorado, baby," and I was like, "Hell yeah!"
That would be like the pot smoking music that Freddy would listen to, so maybe that's why they used it.
Maybe,
but it wouldn't be the pot smoking music that Spencer would be listening to.
I mean,
it'd probably be like Led Zeppelin or something. Like,
oh hell yeah!
But who knows?
Yeah. I love some good 60s psychedelia if I'm going to get into pot smoking music, but that's me and my weird biases. Yeah. It's not the norm.
You do love mid-century shit.
I love mid-century shit. Have I listened to the Graduate soundtrack on vinyl while smoking weed? Of course I have. I am a cliche. Anyway, he gets sucked into the TV, into like a video game, and Freddy is playing the video game, and it's just him. It's just Mike Tyson's Knockout, but with his dad instead of Mike Tyson. And I do love that Freddy is like, great graphics. It's such a weird aside. It made me laugh so hard.
I like that Freddy, we actually get cutaways to Freddy playing the video game, and it looks like he's just like a security guard in a security guard office with his feet kicked up on his counter playing a video game, but he's actually killing a child.
Yeah, it's truly Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
But we cut to, they all arrive, Maggie, Tracy, and John Doe arrive at the house, and Maggie recognizes the basement and recognizes the backyard, and she's like, oh my God, I'm here. This is the place for my dream. Meanwhile, Spencer is being puppeted around the house like a character voiced by Frank Oz, or puppeted by Frank Oz.
Yeah.
And honestly, they just had Breckenmeyer physically do this and sped up the frame rate, is all they did.
You can tell, like, some of the shots when he's hitting his head on the ceiling or whatever, you can tell he's on a lift, and they're just lifting him slowly up towards the ceiling a bunch.
Yep.
And I bet that was terrible to shoot for Breckenmeyer because he has to hold almost completely still for like minutes at a time.
Yeah.
I would hate that.
I would hate it as well.
Like the ADD in me would not allow it. Like, I don't think I could handle it.
Here's what's crazy, because they used the same technique in Aliens to film the fight in the powerlifting suit.
Yeah.
And that looks seamless and great compared to this.
Are you saying this doesn't look seamless and great?
Yes.
Paige, they put minutes of work into this. How dare you?
How dare you? Meanwhile, John Doe is like, he won't kill me. I'm his son. You got to lay me out so I can go in there to the dream and whatever. And she's like, all right, but there is an easier way. And he's like, hit me in the fucking face. And she's like, fucking fine, shit. So she like hits him.
Well, no, he slaps her.
That's right.
And then she hits him because she has a self-defense thing because understood. Like,
sure,
she should have hit him. But I do like that she just like meditates her way in after like smacking him through a table into sleep.
Yep.
Like, that's how hard she hit him.
I do love it though, because he like smacks through the table and then the table reforms and it's fine.
It was very
cool.
Yeah.
For as bad as the Breckenmeyer stuff looks, That looks amazing.
I know, right?
Now, they get into the dream and they immediately see Freddy just like playing with the controller, and they kick it out of his hand, or rather she does. Tracy kicks it out of his hand and he goes, uh-oh, you forgot about the power glove. Amy angry. Amy want gorilla. Like that, immediately he's controlling it with the power glove.
Yes.
But as they're all fighting, he's using the power glove to strangle Breckenmeyer and throw him down the stairs. And Maggie gets there and can't catch him because as he falls, the floor opens up and he's gone.
I thought it was very funny when he starts rolling down the stairs. Maggie starts to run over towards him, and then they literally pull the rug out from in front of the stairs, revealing a big hole. And he's got maybe 20 steps left by that time that reveal happens.
Yep.
And Maggie just at that point stops and lets it happen. She's like, This is a obstacle I cannot overcome in the amount of time I have to save you, so I will just witness your death, friend.
Yep.
And that's all she does.
Yep. We cut to them driving away, and they can't wake John Doe up, so they put him unconscious into the van. And they drive away, and magically it's not in circles this time, but he wakes up in Freddy's house. Everything looks normal. The house flies away. He wakes up again, and he's like, nothing's gonna make me get off this bed. And then it catches on fire.
I thought that shit was so funny.
And he just goes, I fucking hate this house. It was hysterical. But then he finds that he has on like a vest that says, in a case of emergency, pull string. He pulls it. It pulls his body, his sleeping body out of the van.
Yeah.
They stop. Freddy is up there basically in his parachute. He's like, oh, you think I'm your dad? No, I just used you as bait to bring my daughter back. And now she's going to bring me to a whole new playground. So he cuts him out of the chute. He falls on a bed of nails that Freddy rolls out, like almost like one of those strips for a car chase. He falls, he dies. And then it seems like Freddy's spirit possesses Maggie, but then that's never really borne out.
Oh, Paige, disagree, and we will talk in depth about what happens in that moment. But I think we have to point out that when he lands on the bed of nails, not to quote Bon Jovi, but when he lands on the bed of nails and it punctures his like chest and stuff, it cuts to him being held by Maggie and like the blood coming out of his chest.
Yes.
And it looks like there is a pillow stuffed under his shirt.
Yes, that is just full of blood.
With like those puncture holes that is just like pouring blood out of it. It looks so, I loved it. It was so funny to me.
And he's just like, it's not a boy. It's not a boy. And then his body just disappears. And Freddy seems to maybe get more powers. The movie's not clear.
He does, like, I think, appear to level up with every soul he collects in this one.
Right.
And I don't necessarily remember if that's the case with the old ones, but I got that vibe in this one at least.
Meanwhile, he seems to inhabit Maggie's body.
Yes, Paige. Because that is his daughter.
Right.
He can just slip inside her mind and then ride that brain out of Spring Hope or whatever, wherever we are.
Springwood.
Yeah, that's the place. I did love the reveal that, he could leave this city or whatever. And his because every town has an Elm Street. I was like,
yes,
that is the last line of the trailer right there. And then
I'm sure
everyone's going to see this movie. I loved it.
I feel like that is a mic drop of a line that I can't believe has not been in a Freddy movie before.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Especially because was it ever just in that town?
I think we see it happen to that specific group of kids because their parents are the ones that burned Freddy.
That is right. But was it always in Ohio? I thought they were in LA at the beginning of the series.
Well, they're always shooting it in LA, but it's never set in LA.
Okay, maybe that's just why I confused it. Okay.
Yeah. The house is one of those houses that is still standing and still looks that way because it's a real house in a real neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so that's part of why I think everyone has this perception that it's taking place in LA. I will say the second movie seems to take place in LA, but that's the weird one where
The Final Boy.
I mean, admittedly, one of the most fun ones.
A bird explodes in that movie, Paige. It's perfect.
Right. But it seems to exist outside the canon of Nancy and
Sure.
everything else like
Yeah.
that. So, but I think that's why people think it's LA is because you could go to the house.
I definitely confused it because of that. But I do now remember they I think were Ohio in the first one too. But
Right.
it's all LA.
Anyway, they get back to the youth shelter. And conveniently, so that there's no police asking questions, no one remembers John or Carlos or Spencer.
Right. All the people that died in the last foray into Springwood have not just been killed, they've been erased, which Doc coming in this scene and explaining that and then being like, how do you know? And he goes, because I can control my dreams, so I'm immune to Freddy. I was like, oh, has that always been the case? I didn't know that if you could control your dreams, you could also control Freddy or whatever, but okay.
Well, that's kind of the concept of the last few movies, starting with Dream Warriors and then Dream Child.
Right.
And the other one, because like they can learn to control their dreams and enter and exit dreams at will.
Well, I get the enter and exit dreams at will, but not like fight and win. But I mean, I guess they do in all those movies.
They do. And like in one of them, they can bring other people with them or take other people out.
That's
and
right.
that's also kind of how they... Anyway.
Man, these movies are always crazy and I love it.
Yeah. How Doc knows this, who's to say? But we cut to, she goes to her mom's house, finds out she's adopted. We cut back to Tracy boxing, and Doc is like, he's gonna come at your mind. And she's like, I'll box him with my mind. I was like, all right, calm down, Tracy.
I do want to point out that in this little boxing segment, while she's punching that heavy bag, she also sweeps the leg.
But it looks like a breakdancing move.
Yes, it does. I was like, is Reagan in this movie? Because like she just like spins her leg under a heavy bag that's hanging.
Yes, it's hysterical.
And then like pops back up and starts punching it again, which like, okay, I guess Karate Kid had just come out, so maybe sweep the leg was the thing, but like it made me laugh. I was like, how low does she think the heavy bag is?
It is the thing they yell in Karate Kid, which is admittedly a much better movie. The original Karate Kid and even Karate Kid 2, really good. Anyway, so she finds out that she's adopted, but they don't know who her adopted parents are, and she leaves. But as we leave, she walks past a newspaper kiosk that has the Freddy song. Instead of sung, it's like written in places, but that's how you can kind of tell that you're in dream world.
Yeah.
We cut to Tracy going to bed, and then Maggie going to bed with a whole bottle of Dreamosil next to her.
Yes.
But this is where we get the backstory of what actually happened in Maggie's childhood. She is Freddy Krueger's daughter. Freddy was a serial killer and had built like a basement like that creepy dude in Europe he was keeping women down there. But like Freddy's not, but that's just where all his gloves, and it's gloves from multiple movies, and like all of the newspaper clippings of people he's killed are all in this basement. The mom finds it and he's like, I told you never to touch my things. And he just straight up murders her with his hands in the backyard.
Yeah.
While the daughter watches. And we find out her actual name was Catherine Krueger.
Yeah.
While she watches. And he basically is like, hey, you're not going to tell anybody, right? I'm sorry, Mom had to tell. I had to take care of it because she was looking at my stuff and she can't. But you would never tell. That's, you're... Oof.
This scene's terrible. Because she, is crying and she's a child.
Yeah.
It's so sad. But yeah.
Well, and he's like, they took you away, so I took all of their children away. And now I've run out of them, so you have to bring me to Springwood. Or you have to bring me to the shelter, because this isn't Springwood. Springwood's over. Every town has an Elm Street.
Yeah.
And the sign pops up. And she wakes up and knocks over the bottle of Dreamosil. So Tracy is dreaming. And we get kind of a recap of clearly why she is in the shelter, where her father comes home, tries to assault her, and she kills him with an electric teapot. But unfortunately, it is Freddy.
Yeah.
And she basically fights Freddy and is like, it's my rules, it's my dream, my rules. And he's like, well, I'm controlling the dream. So she burns her hands
to wake herself up
on the stove
Yeah.
to wake herself up.
It's kind of it's almost like her wrist. It's like right under her hands, right?
Right.
But it does wake herself up, which is like
Brilliant.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could do it that way. But yeah, she does.
She does. She goes and finds Doc. Doc is looking for Tracy, but Doc also in the dream world. And Freddy is like, oh, I'm in the lockers. I'm right here. And I love that Doc does not hesitate.
No.
And is just like bat to the face. Like he's going to try and put Freddy down in as few hits as possible. Like he's going after him.
Oh, and he does beat the shit out of him.
Yes. But this is where he's like, Freddy is counting off on his fingers and cutting them as he goes. And he's like, no one will ever kill me. They tried holy water. They tried burying me. They tried burning me. But the dream people gave me this job.
Every time he lists one thing, he's like cutting off another finger.
Yeah, and they're gushing like Surge Cola.
Yeah.
But this is where he's like, the dream people gave me it. In dreams, I am forever. And Doc grabs his sweater and grabs a piece of it and then wakes himself up.
Yeah.
And he has the sweater in the real world. And so he's like,
This is important.
This is important.
Yes.
If we can grab onto him and bring him to the real world, we can then kill him in the real world.
Yes.
So he kind of assembles their crew that's going to fight him, Maggie, Tracy, and Doc. And they're like, it has to be you, Maggie. You have the strongest connection because you are his daughter. Take these 3D glasses for protection.
The funny part about that is that's exactly what he says.
Yes.
But he's also like, here, they're silly 3D glasses. In there, they're anything.
Which is ridiculous. But it was just an excuse for the next 15 minutes
Yes.
of film to be in 3D because that's all they could afford to shoot on 3D.
I love a movie that makes it really clear at what point you're supposed to put on your 3D glasses. That to me was so great.
It was wild, and I have some fun facts about it. That's what I was looking up before we started.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, like they're like counting her down into the dream, and I was like, there's 18 minutes, not counting credits, so 15 minutes
Probably, yeah.
left for any of this to make sense.
And Paige, I know. And they count her down from 10.
Yeah, they do.
They take their sweet ass time. Like they know they have a lot to explain and precious minutes to get there, but they choose to spend, I don't know, 40 seconds of that counting down from 10.
Madness. Absolute madness. But then we enter the 3D segment of the film, at which point it goes full Evil Dead puppets.
It's great.
And girl, I'm here for it.
You mean the 3 demon sperms?
Yeah, because she goes inside this like poster of a temple, but she walks inside it like it's real. And I was like, oh, we getting real Hellraiser 2 up in this bitch. Let's go. Let's go. But she basically walks through this temple of Freddy's memories because she's in Freddy's brain. And we learned that Freddy was killing animals remorselessly at a very young age.
Yeah.
Troubling. And was bullied in school and participated in self-harm. But also, they clearly don't understand at what points Freddy was alive. Because in the self-harm one, he's dressed like it's the 80s. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
But I also love that they were like, that first title card, 1991, it was like 10 years later. So it's 2001, but she was taken away from them as a child in 1966. This movie's not great with time.
It's not.
Anyway, so Freddy is like, you got to stop feeling pain and start using it. But then we find out that Catherine, after seeing her mom get killed, did say something to someone.
Yeah.
And that's how they found out that he was the child killer and burned the house down around them after taking her away. And then we get like an extra flashback to a little earlier where we watch him murder her mother.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the scariest scene in this movie is him just like remorselessly killing her mom.
Yeah.
And they have this like conversation where he's like, you did tell. Now it's time, like it's revenge time for him basically.
Yeah.
But she wraps her arms around him and tries to go back because they see in the real world that she's making this motion where it like she looks like she has a hold on him and they're like, bring her back. And I'm like, you don't know what she's doing.
She was hugging a friend.
Hugging a friend.
And no, but it is, I mean, but fortunately, she is holding on to Freddy.
Right.
And apparently, because even though you're dreaming, do move around like you're not dreaming. Although this is so crazy because she's not laying down in the dream. She's like walking around and running around in the dream, but she's laying down in the real world. But when she grabs onto Freddy, which is also a physical motion, she actually physically does grab onto Freddy in the real world. And that to me is like a level of not making sense that I respect.
I mean, it definitely does not make sense.
Like, why was Breckenmeyer bouncing around? Because he was bouncing around in the video game, so he had to bounce around in the real world.
Right.
But she's able to lie down when she goes to sleep, and then they can see her grab Fred. It's crazy. None of it makes sense, and I love it.
None of it makes sense. They do bring her back, even though his arms stretch, whatever, but they do come back to the real world, and she's like, it's not over. We're still in the dream world because I can still see things, so he's here
Yeah.
somewhere. So they end up finding him in the shelter, but it's like regular Robert Englund.
Yes.
And she's like, I saw what they did to you, like you. And I don't love this like retconning of like Freddy was persecuted also. I'm like, he killed a lot of kids about it. Okay. Like
I did sort of like that it does sort of set up the hurt people like trauma cycle thing, because then it allows her to sort of embrace who she is and then stop the cycle. So I like it from a metaphor perspective, because then we get to see her immediately stop the cycle, you know?
Right.
So like, I like that aspect of it, but I don't need a redemption arc for Freddy at all.
That's what I'm
So I
saying.
completely understand what you're saying. Yes.
But this is where they end up locked in like a cage together. Unclear how, not shot well.
I don't know, but I bet Vince McMahon was involved. It was 91.
Yeah.
There's a cage match.
Hell in a Cell. It's happening.
Gotta be. Yeah.
But this is where they start putting knives and ninja stars and everything under the fence. And she has unlimited weapons and a crossbow and a pipe bomb.
But she like literally throws like these knives and like stick his arms and like legs to the wall behind him. It's like a circus trick. It's so funny to me.
Right. Well, and ultimately what happens is she takes his glove and puts it on.
Yes.
And stabs him with the glove.
Yeah, she embraces her birthright, Paige. Yeah.
She does, yeah. And then shoves the pipe bomb in him. And they like run away and she just goes, Happy Father's Day! Because of course she is Freddy's daughter. So like she has to.
I also wrote in my notes, oh, it's Father's Day.
Oh.
I thought it was so funny because I was like, wait, okay, is it Father's Day? Is it like a coincidence, or is she just being really catty right now?
I think she's just being real catty.
Oh, man.
But we see all of the little dream sperms and the 3D glasses like disintegrate off her face. And they're all in the room and she's like, Freddy's dead. We cut to the credits where there's just a montage of all of Freddy's kills.
And that's the movie.
movie.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you think about Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare?
It's no Dream Warrior.
It is not.
It has elements of cool things, but it is far from my favorite in the franchise. I don't think I'll revisit this one necessarily.
I still enjoyed it. I could not agree more, though. I think Dream Warrior is a odd but awesome movie. That to me is the peak of the franchise. And I realized I'm probably a nerd for saying that, but I love that movie. You cannot go wrong with that movie. And I do like the sillier Freddy's. So like this one's still up there for me, but I probably won't revisit it often when I could revisit 2 or 3.
Right. 2, where a bird explodes.
Famously.
And 3, Dream Warriors!
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts. Freddy,
Nightmare fun facts. According to Alice Cooper in Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy documentary from 2010, he said that he gets asked to be in films all the time, but they always want him in makeup as his onstage persona. And so he agreed to be in this film, not only because he's the fan of the series, but he wanted to play his character as Freddy's father as himself without his usual Alice Cooper look. Spoiler, still looks like Alice Cooper. It is a real weird costume choice in this film.
I mean, yeah.
It was also unclear that was Freddy's father, since they appeared to be, the same age.
Oh, I got that it was Freddy's father because they have a young person playing Freddy. Like you only see him in that one scene.
It is.
Yeah.
But they look pretty close in age. Like there's definitely an age gap between them, but because he never says dad or anything in the scene, I thought it was Freddy's landlord because he says, you've been nothing but trouble since I took you in.
I mean,
and so I was like, landlord, foster dad? I don't know. Unclear.
Who knows?
Now, this is the first movie to not include the little girls jumping rope and singing, but instead the lyrics to the song appear written in several places. Now, let's get into who originally wrote the script for this.
Okay.
That was unfortunately thrown out.
Okay.
There was an original script for this written by, any guesses?
No. Why would I?
Peter Jackson.
I'm sorry. Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson?
Well, before he was Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, he was Brain Dead / Dead Alive, Peter Jackson.
Oh, he was the Frighteners, Peter Jackson. Yeah, I mean, I realize the Lord of the Rings franchise is not the first movie he did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it would be another 10 plus years before he did that, right? So he's known for horror like this at the time.
Yeah.
So his original screenplay for Freddy's Dead had Freddy aging and growing weak within the dream world.
Love it.
In line with his actual aging, and the teens of Springwood would get basically cocky and have drug-fueled slumber parties to enter the dream world
And fuck with Freddy? Hell yes.
and fight him as a dare.
Hell yes.
Yes. So in that, I'm like, okay, that's way more interesting to see him come back and be like, I am truly scary.
Yeah.
So this is New Line Cinema's first film in 3D.
Okay.
Additionally, the day before this came out in the US, LA declared it Freddy Krueger Day because we don't really know how to celebrate things correctly sometimes. Could have had Nancy Day, I guess, or Nightmare on Elm Street Day. But like Freddy, should Freddy get his own day?
No, he should not. He murders many people in this movie.
Many children. So John Doe was supposed to be Jacob from the previous film. But when they couldn't secure the return of Lisa Wilcox, also from the previous
Right,
film,
yeah.
in earlier versions of the script, Freddy absorbed the entire town of Springwood into the dream world before moving on to the next town. So the entire town is gone.
That's what it feels like. It feels like the entire town
Yeah.
is in the dream world. So that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it's not quite as clear in the movie, but then the dream police from the last movie would be chasing after him, which I also really, really like.
Sorry, the dream police?
Yeah, but as the characters from the last movie that learned how to defeat him
Oh.
in the dream world, they kind of call them the dream police, but like, yeah.
Do they have badges?
No. It's not like the vegan police. Yeah.
Okay, guys, can we make a dream police badge? I want one.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to put it in a leather like thing, badge holder. I want to carry it around.
Yep. Just oversee naps.
Ma'am, I have to inspect this nap. Actually, that sounds really predatory. Now that I rethink it, we should not do this.
Nope. This movie was meant to be the end of the series. So this is the first Nightmare on Elm Street not to have a cliffhanger.
I did notice that there was no like stinger at the end because I waited for it.
Yep. Now, obviously, we know hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, 4 years later.
Yeah, 3 years later, Robert Englund would come back for New Nightmare in 1984.
That's right, yeah. Although it would be like 9 years before he shows up on the screen again, right? Because it wasn't Freddy versus Jason like...
2003.
Oh, it was 2003. Okay, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. And that is the last time he's played Freddy canonically in a film, I believe, because there's only one Freddy versus Jason, not two. And the newest Nightmare was actually Jackie Earle Haley, who plays a very much more scare forward than comedy forward Freddy. For me, Robert Englund is Freddy forever. He originated the role. He did it a ton of times. He is part of what makes Freddy Freddy.
Yeah, man. I agree. Although I haven't seen the one Freddy that's somebody else. And it seems like with that series or with that one movie, they were trying to do a scarier version of Freddy.
Yes.
So I get why the character would be way different, especially if you're trying to do scary and not campy. But
Yeah.
I feel like the Evil Deads are campy in your mind, right?
Right.
And same with this. And if they're not campy,
Right.
it doesn't feel like an Evil Dead or whatever.
Right.
Or a Nightmare. And I sort of agree about Nightmare for sure, because I really do like the camp of Nightmare.
Yeah. Now, when this was shown in theaters, audience members were given one pair of red cardboard 3D glasses with movie taglines printed on it, and then the inside arms had adhesives for attaching standard glasses if you wore standard glasses. And there was also an advertisement for House Party 2 printed on the outside of one arm. However, it was originally filmed entirely in 3D for that last portion. The effect was removed from most US home releases because most people at the time in 1991 didn't have TVs that could support 3D. Now this would probably be different since some people have the ability to watch things in 3D on their TV, although that seemed to die out as quickly as it came.
Yeah, 3D's never really taken off.
Yeah. The UK rental version included the 3D effect in its entirety.
Nice.
And it would come with 5 pairs of red blue 3D glasses,
Nice.
similar to the ones in the cinema, but without advertising inside the box. So like when you rented it, it came with the glasses. The UK retail version, however, is the standard 2D version, and the cover artwork differed slightly from the rental one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. When Freddy punches Tracy in the face during their epic fight, Robert Englund actually punched Leslie Dean.
What?
Yes, on accident. I think they're probably friends now.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. A 16-year-old Jacob Johnson, who's the son that's born to Alice Johnson in the previous installment, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child.
Yeah.
Because if you'll remember, she gets pregnant and it's like, how long has she been pregnant? How pregnant is she? Is the baby's dreams? That crazy one.
I do remember this, yes.
Yeah, that baby was a major character in the original script written for this by Michael Almereda. And in his first draft of the film, Alice, who was now in her 30s, was killed by Freddy, and Terry, Joey, and Kincaid from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors returned as the Dream Police. In the script, Taryn was a blade cop, Joey was a sound cop, and Kincaid was a power cop in conjunction with their talents within Dreams as established in Dream Warriors, because Dream Warriors is fucking awesome.
It is.
However, director Rachel Talalay really disliked the script, and that said that the replacement script by Michael DeLuca saved the day. DeLuca said he was surprised he wasn't asked to write the screenplay in the first place, as he had done a similar last-minute rewrite on Dream Child, which basically was that movie. Now, Peter Jackson's, I think, gets introduced in between somewhere in the middle of this at some point. But I also like this Dream Police version too. I think there could have been really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Now, Alice Cooper, who is in this uncredited as Freddy's father, also co-wrote and performed the theme song for Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, one of the best ones. And both this and that one are sixth in their respective franchises.
Okay.
In the extended interviews for Never Sleep Again, Elm Street Legacy, Lisa Zane reveals that she wrote and performed a James Bond-esque credits ballad for the end credits.
No.
Similar to Tuesday night's opening theme, Nightmare, in Part 4, titled, quote, "The worst is over, but it went unused."
But can we hear it? Like, I want that.
I was not able to find it.
Damn, okay.
So the director, Rachel Talalay, got really sick towards the end of the filming schedule, and they couldn't delay production to wait for her recovery. So Aaron Warner actually directed the last several hours of filming of the movie, including the final scene between Freddy and John Doe. Now, even within the script, John Doe's character dies before his identity can be discovered by us, the viewer, so it's never revealed. And there is speculation that this may have been Jacob Johnson, and that the Dream Police version of this occurred, but they passed away before he gets out. So almost like there's a movie between Dream Child and this that you could argue takes place, resulting in John Doe being expelled from Dream World. So you could make that argument, but there is no screen version of that. But it could still work within the timeline of the story.
Fair enough.
We'll end on this really fun fact that I find incredibly fun. Director Rachel Talalay reused most of the crew from the movie she had just produced prior to this, which happened to be John Waters' Crybaby, including Tracy Lord's husband at the time, Brooke Yeaton, but that's also how she gets Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp famously also in Crybaby. And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare from 1991?
I'm going to say some like gold coins that you buy at a candy store. No, honestly, I think all of the puppetry and all of the practical effects probably cost a lot of money, because we were getting into a time where people were starting to get away from practical in favor of CG, even though CG doesn't look as good. So I'm going to say this probably cost New Line Cinemas about $9 million to make.
Ooh, it was actually $5 million.
Oh, good for them.
I know, right? They did all right. But if you adjust for inflation, that's like $11.5 million today. Now, this movie premiered on September 13th, 1991, and it was number 1 the weekend it came out. It beat the number 2 movie, Dead Again. Number 3 was The Commitments. Number 4 was a not really well-known movie unless you're a nerd like me, but number 4 was Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Hell yeah.
It had been out for 11 weeks and was still number 4. It had made $190 million at that point. Number 5 was Hot Shots, the original Hot Shots. Also in theaters was Doc Hollywood, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Child's Play 3, City Slickers. So many great movies were out at this time. Anyway, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare was number 1. Paige, what do you think it brought in its opening weekend?
Ooh, opening weekend, I think this probably brought in about 16 million.
Paige, it brought in 12 point...
All right.
It was almost 13. It was like $12.9 million. It's still really good though. Like, its budget was $5 million.
Yeah.
It like did double its budget and then some. It was like 2.5 times budget in its opening weekend. That's amazing. It also was number 1 the next weekend. It was top 4 the third weekend. And then it was, it sort of fell out of theaters. It was in theaters for about 10 weeks though. But what do you think it brought in domestically? And honestly, it didn't track worldwide if it even got an international release. So let's just call this worldwide. What do you think it made worldwide?
Worldwide, I'm going to say this comes in around 40 million.
Yeah, it's 34.8 Paige, so you're very, very close. If you adjust for inflation, that's roughly $80.5 million today. So it made some money, and I'm sure it's made money post-theaters as well because, I paid to rent it today, and it's been around since 91. So people have been paying to rent it at Blockbusters before we paid to rent it today. Anyway, but Paige, that's your box office. Do you want to hit us with that scary scale?
Our scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found the film today. 1 being Ghostbusters, 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd.
I'm going to give us a 1. It's not scary at all. In fact, it was funny and I enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, I'd have this at about a 1 as well.
Yeah.
So that's our scary scale.
Yeah, so Paige, this week, you made us watch Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. What are you going to make us watch next week?
We are recording the 3rd installment of one of our favorite franchises next week, potentially with a special guest.
We'll see if they have time.
Phantasm 3.
Hell yeah. I am very excited to be visiting Phantasm again. It's a wild universe, and I can't wait to see where we go next week.
Yep.
I literally can't wait. All right, well, that's your homework for next week, guys. So watch Phantasm 3 and then check back for that episode.
And Todd, do you have any reviews for us?
I do. I also have some Spotify comments, and I'll start there. So this week, I'm going to read a Spotify comment from one of our most recent episodes, and that is going to be from the Covenant episode, and this is from Psy, and they say, "The gasp I gasped when Paige mentioned Ludo. Literally my favorite band."
Yeah.
So Paige, I didn't know you were, connected like that to the
I guess.
happenings of the youth folk. But, Sai, thank you so much for that comment. I thought Ludo was a strategy board game. Anyway,
Nope.
if you want to have me read your Spotify comment and or 5-star Apple review, do one of those things and I will read it for you. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear Paige and I talk about romantic comedies or just regular romantic movies, check out our other podcast, some might call it a sister podcast, called Romancing the Pod, where we do just that weekly. It's a lot like this show, but for romance and romantic comedies, because Paige doesn't like them. So we make her watch them, just like you guys make me watch horror over here. But if you want to follow me, I am at Todd J. Awesome on all the social media. Paige is at Rampage Wesley on Instagram?
Yes. And TikTok.
And just Paige Wesley on Twitter, because you got that before some CEO lady and she wanted it, but you wouldn't give it back. And I respect you for that.
Refuse.
Also, Paige
Suck it, other Paige Wesley.
Paige is also on another podcast. It's great. You should check it out. It's called Cult Podcast with Armando Torres, who is a wonderful person. And if you want to support this show, go to Patreon at patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where there are a lot of great levels and a lot of great things. We do the Patreon shout outs at the beginning of every episode. We do listener requests, stuff like that, bonus episodes. So you'll be getting all of that content, plus episodes a day early with no ads, and who doesn't love that? So sign up for the Patreon and get a lot of great stuff.
That's going to be it for us. You guys, I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Did Paige just say she's paged?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I'm a mess.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye.
Bye. The Final Nightmare.
Ba-da-da-da, with a power glove. Ba-da-da-da, with a glove that has the knives in the glove, and the knives and in the glove with knives.